it's nice to say that because of deterrence, there won't be much use of force. But a deterrent posture is a posture where you are prepared to use that force, where you have all the means and the will to use that force and the plans to use it. And that's quite a stretch, and that raises big questions for a peacekeeping operation. It's nice to reassure the troop contributors that, look, now you have a forceful position, but you won't have to use it. The reality is that deterrence is credible if you are prepared to act on it. Otherwise, it's called bluff. And if your bluff is called, it's very dangerous if you're not in a position to follow up on your bluff. The Brahimi report does not ignore that. It talks about casualties. It talks about troop contributors being willing to take casualties. So it does clearly understand, sees the implication that sometimes you might have to act on your posture. But it sort of navigates between this threat on the horizon that, yes, there might be a use of force, but don't worry, most of the time there won't be a use of force. Because at the end of the day, for me, the Brahimi report is first a call on in that particular issue. It's many other things, but in that particular point, it's really a call on member states to be responsible and to give peacekeeping the resources it needs. And actually, there is one recommendation of the Brahimi report that was never implemented, and I always like to recall for the Security Council to adopt resolutions in 2 steps. So first a framework, and then in the implementing resolution once the troops have been lined up. And so the way I think the Brahimi report sort of manages to dominate those tensions is by telling the member states, look, we have entered a different world, you need to put the resources to back up that world. Now let me look at the implications of that, and I would say it means new issues, operational implications, and I'll conclude on the political implication. The new issues. So what does it mean to deal with non-state actors? Bill Durch already referred to the capstone doctrine. The capstone doctrine, I'm going to plead guilty there because it was issued under my watch, does not really clarify the ambiguities. And as Bill said, it may even go deeper in the hole by reifying a little bit robust peacekeeping, as if it was a new category. It says, although on the ground they may sometimes appear similar, robust peacekeeping should not be confused with peace enforcement as envisaged under Chapter 7 of the Charter. The peace enforcement is not really as such envisaged. Robust peacekeeping involves the use of force at the tactical level with the authorization of the Security Council and consent of the host nation and all the main parties to the conflict. By contrast, peace enforcement does not require the consent of the main parties and may involve the use of military force at the strategic or international level. Now that begs the question, what is a strategic threat? What is a tactical threat? And it's not a simple question. Because in hindsight, we are all very wise on what was a strategic threat, what was a tactical threat. There are tactical threats that, if not addressed, can become strategic threats. So the easy situations where you have one of the main parties that defect, that's the easy situation, but peacekeeping is all shades of gray. And in most situations, you will have a threat where it's a judgment call to decide whether it's tactical or it's strategic. And that raises a major operational and political question for a peacekeeping operation, because it's the whole question of the peacekeepers, the peacekeeping mission as being a mediator or an enforcer. And there I use the word enforcer not loosely. That is, you have some gangs in Haiti they can be considered as a tactical threat, which is, if not addressed, is a strategic mortal danger to the stabilization of Haiti. If you make the judgment that through the use of force you can really crush them, you remove them from the picture, they're put in jail. Well, they were put in jail, and the jail was destroyed by the earthquake, as we know. If you can crush them, and then, yes, I think the logic of the capstone doctrine works well. And you could apply that to a little militia in Congo. If you're sure you can crush that militia in Ituri, then the trade-off between a mediator and an enforcer is resolved, because you won't have to mediate with a party that has essentially been removed from the picture. If you're not so sure of the results of your military action, then you have a serious problem, because as you confront them militarily, you are losing your capacity then to manage the situation from a political standpoint. These are very hard decisions to make, because to analyze the chain of circumstances, you don't know. Another question in this new role with new state actors: how does a mission operate if, let's say, a government unit, in those situations where you have a peace agreement with the government on one side and rebel side, a government unit not under instructions from the government, because that would be the kind of strategic threat where you just have to accept then that the peacekeeping mission is unraveling. But if a government unit misbehaves, kills some civilians, and these are not, unfortunately, hypothetical. I mean, it's not. It's reality. What happens if a government unit misbehaves in a bad way? Do you do nothing about it? If the government says, no, this is a government unit, you can't do, and it's unfortunate that they did that, but you can't do anything about it. Do you do nothing about it? Then what is your credibility with the other players? So this situation for the UN, and this was alluded to in the first session and by Bill Durch again, with the UN, an organization of states, finds itself in that delicate situation where you have states whose legitimacy is uncertain, either because they are transitional governments emerging from a peace agreement, or even if they have been legitimized by elections, but their legitimacy is still rather weak, their political base is uncertain. How does the UN, an organization of state, which has a natural bias toward states, is going to keep the balance in moving forward the political process? These are issues that are not easy to address, and that, frankly, from a doctrinal standpoint, practical standpoint, we don't really know how to address today. Now, the second set of issues, protecting. Sorry, I'm speaking for too long.
No, that's okay.
The second set of issues, the fact that civilians have become the main target. That's the whole issue now of what is known as the protection of civilian debate. Well, let me start by saying that, of course, what is the UN if it's not about protection of human life and the dignity of human life? So, because I'm going to say things where I express some distance with the protection of civilians debate. But I want to préfacer ça en soulignant que, évidemment, les Nations Unies, c'est d'abord de permettre à des hommes et des femmes de dormir en paix sans risquer d'être assassinés, terrorisés dans leur maison. C'est au cœur de tout ce que représente la charte. Cela étant dit, first, the notion of physical protection as the response to that, that is a very dangerous direction to take. And the sophisticated discussion on protection of civilians does make the point that protection of civilians is a much broader concept than the physical protection of civilians. But for the layman and for the people concerned, the first thing they see is the physical protection, because it is nice to say we're going to report on abuse, we're going to create, to help